what I do is I work with, I call it spiritual alignment, away from the logical mind. Because when you're in alignment, things are natural, things come to you. The deal just happens, money comes in, you meet the right people. In order to heal, the first step is compassion, and also compassion to the emotions that come up for us. In order to heal, we do need to feel the pain. And as we say, to feel the pleasure. Achieving comes from trauma. We could have an emotion that's suppressed in our system for years. They say people pleasing is like a disease.
Wow, I feel good. I knew that I would now. I feel good.
Welcome to another episode of the Waitress Diaries. I'm your host here, and this is Opal. Today's episode is about alignment and what happens when you build a life that looks successful but doesn't fully feel like you. So we're joined by Faye to talk about reconnecting with yourself, healing identity, and showing up in a way that actually feels authentic. So welcome, Faye.
Hello, thank you. Thank you, ladies, for having me. I'm really excited to be doing this with you both, Tia and Opal.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
So my name is Faye Ruse, but I go by Faye as well. And in this field, what I do is I work with, I call it spiritual alignment or soul alignment, which really means is bringing us back to ourselves. To when we say alignment, it is our soul and our hearts and our intuition, and moving away from, I would say, achieving without purpose, and away from the logical mind and really back to our hearts so we can really live on our life's path.
Oh, beautiful. I love that. So, what would you say the cost of not living in alignment with yourself is?
The cost of not living in alignment, I would say it could feel like, not being happy, not feeling fulfilled, not feeling satisfied, and as if you're always running after something that you think will bring you those feelings, but they don't. And it can usually start with, conditioning since we were children. When our parents have taught us that we need to become like doctors and lawyers, and to be happy, we need to go to university, find a degree, get a good job, have kids, have a home, and then like live that circle. And if you don't do that, you're not happy. So a lot of the conditioning comes from birth, and we call this like the difference between the material world and the energy world. Living in alignment is really removing all those, all that noise around us, and kind of listening to our internal world, and like what she wants and what truly makes us happy. So finding to be able to get there, it's a lot of deep work into really finding out like who you are, discovering yourself, and moving away from, I would say, achievements without purpose.
So, you would say not living in alignment would be like wearing a mask. What's the long-term cost of wearing a mask and not being yourself?
So yeah, like living in alignment is really matching your identity, your values, your identity, your beliefs to your values. So not doing that, the body, the soul, it can start to, like, I kind of use the word like in a way like not deteriorate, but like you can start to feel disconnected. One can start to feel whether it's depressed, even burnout. So all these come to a point when we're not really living in alignment. And for example, burnout could be we're doing something so logical that we think that we need to do. Like it's like something we think we need to do, not something we want to do, like our soul wants to do. And that's where the mask comes in, where it can be very unconscious, of course. Like obviously no one's consciously, not living in alignment, but we think that we need to take these steps to get where we are, or we think we need to be that person to be loved or liked. So the mask can come in those ways where, like, if we want to even like go a layer deeper, is, when we're also trying to suppress any pain that we're not ready to face, living in survival mode, which is like living in logic and trying to push from a place that is not meant to be. Because when you're in alignment, things are natural, things come to you, the deal just happens, money comes in, you meet the right people. That's what living alignment would feel like. And it takes time, of course, to really get there and feel that depending where you are. But yeah, that's what I would say, just to give like a brief description.
Amazing. I think that's where everyone would want to be.
Yeah. Look, if there's this big word of healing that's, blown up on social media and everything, what do you reckon the first step to healing or being in alignment with yourself is?
It's actually a really beautiful question. And this is something that I feel to voice more often, that, we need to hear as humanity. The first step I would love to say is love, is compassion to yourself first. When you're able to give yourself that level of compassion and love, it will then emit to the rest of the world. So I'm speaking from a very, like, if we think of this of our internal world, of our inner child, of what goes on inside us, the first step to healing is compassion to ourselves first, to really not judge ourselves and how we're feeling. It can be from the simplest ways of, if you're feeling down, if you're feeling lazy, if you're not feeling motivated, don't judge yourself. Why are you feeling this way? Push yourself to go to the gym, or push yourself to be active, or push yourself to achieve. This is when your soul, or your inner child is reaching out to you and asking for you to be present with them. And sometimes, due to us being in like 2026, we're always after that, that rat race. It's like nonstop. And I think it's very important for, humanity as a whole to sometimes ask ourselves, why, and like take a moment of stillness and compassion with ourselves.
Most people, like, love and compassion to yourself sounds quite easy, but it's actually really hard to do. And so that would kind of go to the childhood stuff.
Yeah,
What would an example be of like giving yourself love, or was that the not going
yeah,
to the gym and not going to?
compassion. From giving ourselves compassion to really listen to what our soul needs versus what we think it needs, in terms of, again, one of the main things is achieving, or trying to be good, or trying to be better. Just like being really present with where we are now, who we are now, and what our soul needs. So compassion is number one, because when it comes to healing, there's, a lot of layers. Of course, it's not something that can be simply explained. We all want to feel better. We all want to look our best. We all want to achieve our best. And in order to heal, the first step is compassion, and also compassion to the emotions that come up for us. So there can be a lot of repressed emotions from our past, from our upbringing, from our parents. So showing ourselves compassion and those emotions, compassion is so important. And also, like, something I like to say is like not gaslighting how we feel. So if you're feeling down, don't push yourself to feel better. Allow yourself to fully give that part compassion, acceptance, and also non-judgment. Healing really does need non-judgment, and again, from yourself first, and of course from others, where you're allowed to just feel what you need to feel, because in order to heal, we do need to feel the pain, and as we say, to feel the pleasure. So the more pain you allow yourself to feel from your past, the more pleasure you will feel. So it's like when it comes to love, if you want to be in a relationship, you need to understand that to have a level of love, there's going to be a level of maybe hurt or pain that comes with it. So you can't say, I want to be in a relationship, only feel love and not feel pain. Like, the more the soul experiences pain, the more it can experience a level of pleasure.
Like an example of that, when people say just feel the feelings, feel the pain, what does that
Yeah.
physically look like?
Again, there's many layers to it, because with the deep root therapy I work with, there's a layer of what we feel here, but then there's a layer where it comes from, which is, this is where the soul is not ready to sometimes, face that pain. So I'll leave that for like part two. But the first thing is, um like, if I were to give an example, is asking yourself, how are you feeling? Because sometimes we, again, as, people, we can be quite avoidant to feel what we're meant to feel. So asking yourself how you're feeling, and this can take practice. The more you check in with yourself and ask yourself how you're feeling, with time, you'll become better and be able to pick up straight away. So asking yourself how you're feeling, and let's say I were to say, I'm feeling sad. And then where is it in my body? So giving yourself a moment just to be in stillness and to feel that. Let's say it's on my chest. And then allowing yourself to, again, first accept it, not judge it, show it compassion. And then one very popular way, what we call emotional processing, is we mention where it is in our body. And then one artistic way to do it is giving it a shape, a color, a size, and allowing yourself to sit with it for at least 90 seconds. Because an emotion is just a feeling, it's just a vibration in our body. And as we say, we are not our thoughts, we are not our emotions, we are not our body, we are soul. So an emotion is something that passes through us, but it does not define who we are. So the more we can understand that, the more we can feel safe to feel these emotions, even if it's stress, for example. If you're in a high level job and you feel stressed quite often, if you want to grow in your business, you're going to feel more stress. So learning how to deal with that stress allows you to be more successful in life, and allowing yourself to sit with it and just saying it's just a vibration, let it pass through me. Once it passes through, it's released from your body. And on the contrary is when people avoid, suppress, or react. So if you feel stressed and you want to ignore it, you might push it down. You might take things that help you feel better, whether it's drinking or smoking or even binge watching, something that really prevents you from feeling it. So that's kind of the contrary.
And I know for me, when I have a rush of a negative emotion, I have to like articulate why I'm feeling that way. My brain won't rest until I figure out, what it is that has made me feel that way. But being a woman, sometimes you just get those feelings. Would you say that's like that process of me trying to figure out what's wrong?
Analyzing it.
Yeah, analyze. Would you
Yeah.
wrong?
So this is where the compassion comes in, because, a lot of us go through that, whether it's, analyzing or if it can lead to overthinking. So first of all, like showing compassion to that part of you, because the reason I say this is because if we all were to look into why, it all comes from a scientific reason. So let's say we weren't heard as a child, or we were taught to doubt ourselves, or so on. So obviously it's normal that when you grow up, like, to when I say doubt yourself, also like doubt your feelings, it's normal that when you grow up, you might, let's say, overthink. So that's where the compassion has to start first. And then when, with what you're describing, I see, and this is why I work with both mindset and emotion. So my core session is, we go from thoughts to emotion to the memory that caused it all. In this situation, one of the things that we want to aim to, because overthinking comes from underfeeling, is we want to aim, especially as women, to trust our bodies and our intuition. And when we feel something, let's say negative or so on, it could be coming from your intuition as a woman, for example, that you're feeling negative vibe or so on. And as we say, our thoughts create our emotions. So it can come from a thought. And that's why, let's say during the session, we first show you how the mindset is working, that is creating the emotion. So then you can understand how that's, because there's definitely a thought there that's creating also the emotion, which is the negative feeling. So yes, it's important to understand, but yes, it's also important to really trust our bodies and and to feel the emotion. So let's say there's a negative thought about your friend who hurt you, which is making you feel this negative emotion. So what we would, recommend is really to sit with that emotion, allow it to process first, and then those thoughts will probably kind of like fall into place. So if, let's say, we're hurt by someone, we could keep thinking about it, or we can allow our bodies to just trust what it's feeling, let it process, and then it will kind of, that clarity will come to you.
Why you should never message someone straight away after something. When you were saying about giving, like having courage and love as well, a big thing is like not letting other people in. I find that with me, I might be feeling overworked or burnt out, and then I'll have other people, like partners or friends, being like, no, you can do more, you can. And it feels so overwhelming. So I'm definitely all for, feeling your own feelings. But would you say part of that is people pleasing and you just wanting to make everyone else happy rather than yourself. So that's where the soul alignment you wouldn't be being yourself because you're too worried about people pleasing.
I would say like there's like a few aspects to that because achieving, so Gabor Mate, he says something that I really changed my life just hearing it. Achieving comes from trauma. And it's like he's saying like it's like saying overachieving comes from trauma. So that's why there's so many layers to this, and like this is why I call my work deep root therapy, because for me like it's something that interests me to go really deep into this. And I don't know, like, of course it's good to start with understanding the basics, but again, if I want to simplify it, we as a whole, as humanity, as the world, one of the main things people struggle with is not feeling good enough. So we were made to sometimes feel unworthy unless we achieve something, especially in cultures where achieving is such a big deal. This is one part, and that part on its own is such a huge healing journey because there's so much to discover and unlock there. In regards to people pleasing, so, they say people pleasing is like a disease. It's not healthy because each time you're people pleasing, you're doing the opposite of soul alignment, which is, and then you're kind of, damaging yourself. In this case, like, yes, one, it can be seen as, they're supporting you that you can do it, which is not wrong. But this is where compassion comes in. We don't know if, let's say, the people who are supporting you can do it, have that level of empathy and compassion to feel what you're going through. And, we can still be high achievers, but check in with ourselves. So the more you allow yourself to, let's say you're having a busy day, productive day, and you're starting to feel overwhelmed, you can take 5 minutes to go sit on your bed and just say, I'm feeling overwhelmed, and breathe through it and allow yourself to feel it. It will release, and then your motivation and clarity will come back up. So meditating, for example, it increases your productivity and so on. And meditating is really checking in with yourself, breathing, relaxing your nervous system, releasing any emotion that is coming up, for example, and coming back to your soul where you can visualize the thoughts, the emotions, not make them who you are. So it really depends on the situation as a whole, because everything at the end of the day is also about like the perspective we see it from. This is where I would ask you to come back to you and, ask. It's like important to like ask ourselves, why we're doing what we're doing. And one main thing I like to say when it comes to like self-worth in general is that self-worth is also giving ourselves time to just be, like we sometimes feel we need to always be achieving or working on our bodies or so on. But sometimes allowing yourself to just be, to just take a break, is the biggest act of like self-love you can give yourself, like self-love, self-worth. So that's why like the intention behind what we're doing, it really drives the energy behind what we're doing, I would say, if that makes sense.
Talking about people pleasing and to listen to yourself and what you would want to do, but some people might feel stuck, say in family relationships or in the work environment. How would you help them move forward in those situations?
So yeah, one main thing when it comes to healing is that you cannot convince someone that they need healing. Healing really has to come from within. So people need to be ready to want to and do the work, because doing the work is not as easy and rainbows and butterflies like as it looks like. Um, and I know it's hard to see someone hurting if they're in a relationship or in, let's say, at work. But this is why, again, compassion comes in, because everyone is on their own journey. So if we truly care about that person, then we trust that they have to go through this relationship in order to learn, because they may not learn the deep lesson they need to learn until they fully go through this relationship and, you know, uh, and until the end, and whatever happens there is what's going to really help them learn and grow. So many people, especially men, go through their breakthroughs after a relationship. Go through a breakup. How many of you, when you go through a breakup, you suddenly like work on yourself so much, you go to the gym, you start looking like your best self, because that pain and that hurt and that breakup is like your initiation. It's like the wake up call that we needed to look into ourselves. And that's why it's so important to allow all these relationships to, this is something I've been saying recently, like even if you are in an unhealthy relationship or a trauma bond or, twin flame, karmic bond, or any type of like, intense relationship, yes, you can see sometimes it's unhealthy and there's red flags and you need to step away. But yes, also you need to allow yourself to fully go through the relationship to fully understand what this person was sent to you in your life and meant to teach you.
Very true, actually.
Makes you think like all the extra things. Then I just want to say on that topic of relationships, my best teachers, one of my best teachers, other than like, people, humanity, psychedelics, conscious intelligence, are, I would say, my exes. So shout out to
So Tia obviously had like a call with you.
Yeah. So I had a session with you. Thank you for doing that with me, by the way, last week. And yeah, it's very confronting. It is. It's very uncomfortable. Like you said, growth is when it's uncomfortable, but it was beautiful after. And I think it's been a week now. And I can say I feel really good. I actually had a whole week of just getting my stuff done. I was angry after it. The emotion that we felt, it just stayed in me for, I think I was wrecked for the next day, the day after. I didn't realize how tired I was going to be after it, but you really are releasing a lot. I explained to you both, I was like twirling my hair, I was like moving my body and my back, and I just kept pulling on my hair throughout it. It was so random for me. And yeah, if I was
Intense.
intense, and you can really feel the emotion and what you're doing come out of you. It's so hard to explain. But it's really, it's cool, it's intense, it's beautiful. I definitely want to do it again, but it's a lot. And I think
I just want to say on that in regards to the emotion, like we could have an emotion that's suppressed in our system for years since birth. So that's why, you know, facing some parts that we can't face is not easy, it's not comfortable. And in my session, I like to say it's like, removing a corkscrew. Once you remove it, the emotion then can start to release. And showing ourselves compassion and gentleness afterwards is really important because when the body is healing, it needs rest, it needs slowness, it needs stillness. So, and again, if the emotion, like if there's an emotion in our body that we've been suppressed for so long and suddenly comes out like, it's very normal. And that's why doing it, with the right, with, a professional and having the right support system around you and healing is very important. I'm very bravo you.
thank you.
Amazing.
For me, the first step seems very intense energetically, and I just kind of never feel like it's the right time. Will there be like a right time, or it's just like putting my big girl boots on and just doing it? Yeah.
If there's a right time in terms of like healing, you mean?
Yeah, well, just starting that process, because I feel like work commitments and it can sound quite energy taxing to me. I just feel like it'll be the right time because, in my role, I have to show up as my best self all the time. So,
Yeah, yeah, interesting question because it is true that healing is, in itself can be like a full-time job sometimes. So it is true that it is time taxing. It also depends like where you are in life and what you want. So let's say one of the reasons I started my healing journey is because of the relationships I was in, and I realized like I was dating, like they say, the same person in a different body. And, it all comes back to my roots. So I said, I don't want to date another person that's got a similar pattern. And I want to attract, the right person, which is for me to, I read this quote from a DJ who said, it took me 2 years of working on myself to meet his wife. So it's like to be worthy to meet the one, we need to step up, you know?
I love.
So it depends, like, one, like, if you're happy in your life, like Tony Robbins says, if you're uncomfortable in life, then you push yourself to get to a comfortable stage. But if you're comfortable, there's not really a reason to push yourself. So it all goes back to you and what you want. I would say. And a lot of the stories that I've heard with people I've worked with is that there is a moment with something quite big happens that changes a person's life, whether it is, a death of someone you love or a breakup or someone going through depression. Depression is actually such a beautiful, beautiful journey in itself because, a lot of people who have gone through it have really, like, are people who really know who they are today because it takes you through that whole journey. It is a commitment, but that's when you ask yourself, what is it that I want? What is it the life I want? And am I willing to take a step back to fully connect to this part of me, or maybe like, spend time with this inner child in me that needs attention, that's then going to give me, give me what I need to be in alignment. So in regards to a relationship, I could keep dating and learning through life, you know, or I could take a step back and go internal and work on what it is I need to work on, not in terms of like I need to work or judge, but if I want to meet the Prince Charming that I want to be with, there are a few things that I know I need to let go that are stopping me from, let's say, meeting this Prince Charming. Whether it's uh, you know, um, any situations from the past, from childhood, upbringing, trauma. It could look like trust issues. It could look like, needing attention from a place that's not authentic, whatever it is. But this is when you ask yourself what it is that you want, and whether it's your work status, is my work making me feel happy and fulfilled? Then yes, why would you, go into healing? But for me, let's say when I used to work with Hermes in Dubai, I was the education manager for Middle East, India, Africa. And one day I got to work and I just had no motivation. I couldn't even answer one email. And I'm like, what is happening to me? And this was like the dream job that I worked so hard to reach. And I was in my masculine, and again, like I don't judge when I was in my masculine, because to be honest, my masculine, brought me the most beautiful success in my career, allowed me to live the luxury life that I lived, allowed me to experience all this. And after I experienced all that, then I went into my journey, which started with depression. And now I feel like I'm working on living in alignment, but I'm so grateful that, you know, my for the life that I had and that I lived that luxury life, because now I know what's truly important to me. So before I used to think, I want to be rich and I want to be famous, and not famous, but let's say I want to be wealthy and I want to be rich, and I still do, but from an alignment perspective. And I can answer that question separately in terms of like, well, but that's why it just really depends what it is that you want in your life. So for me, one thing that really motivated me is that I didn't want to live the way I was living anymore. And I was living on autopilot when I was living in Dubai. I was working for Hermes, and for me, that was like the creme de la creme of our industry. I, had an amazing fiance at the time. I had great friends. I had my dream apartment that I designed all myself near Dubai Mall in downtown. And then I was like, but I'm not happy. This doesn't make sense. And instead of taking pills, I wanted to find out the core reason from within. So that's why everyone's journey, it takes place depending on, what they're going through in life. And it's just about, you know, what is it that we want to live? And one thing for me, like, is I want to live from my highest self. So I want to live 100% in the freedom that I want to live in, and in order to reach that, I need to let go of, let's say, a few things, but I want to reach my full capacity, whether that is my dharma of what I'm meant to do on this earth in my career or in the way I give back, whether it's having the most beautiful relationship that I will ever have, the safety that I want for me and my children, whether it's having the lifestyle, surrounded by the right people, supportive people, friends, experiences that make me happy. So I would say, like, there has to be a reason to want to do it, and it has to be worthy enough that it's worthy enough for you to give it time.
I didn't realize you had all of that in Dubai. That would have been, I don't know how you just went, I'm not living in alignment, and changed everything. I would feel like if I need to make this work, I will feel better because I've got everything I wanted. Like,
My mom actually thinks I'm crazy till today. You think? Even till today says, go back to Dubai, go back to Hermes. Like, what are you doing with your life? So
I'm glad you stuck to what you wanted to do and you actually see
yeah.
what you wanted to do.
And that's why when I mentioned, like, sorry, the conditioning is that for me, it starts, for all of us, it starts with our parents. Like, till today, I get kind of like sometimes judged by my family for my lifestyle because my family, they're all, they really care about like status and ambition and having a family and kids. Um, so yeah, it's not easy sometimes, but you really need to believe in the reason you're doing it and surrender and trust the process, and kind of cancel out that noise. So it is a commitment.
Can I just ask what, because that would be so hard with all these external voices and everyone. What was the first thing you did that got you on this journey and moved from Dubai and just like block everyone out?
For me, when I hit 30 is when I left Dubai. Yes, when I hit 30. For me, to be honest, like I said, when I had all these external things and I wasn't happy, this is when I'm like, you know what, Faye, your internal happiness, your health is more important than anything on this planet. So one thing I say today to all my clients, your health comes first. I don't care if you have a deadline. I don't care if you have work. I don't care if you need to hit numbers or, hit something on your app when it comes to the gym or your nutrition. For me, health is number one.
All right. Thank you so much, Faye, for coming on. You've shared so much info. If you could leave us with one last tip on how girls will be able to start this journey.
So one thing I like to say in general, which is the first step to my course, is discovering yourself. So one step is just, to be able to discover yourself in many beautiful ways to go internal, whether it's through like yoga or meditation or energy healing or breath work or kundalini, anything that really, I would say, excites you, because for everyone something different calls out to them. So discovering yourself, or even when it comes to like, nature or things you like to do, because that's the whole, the start is really coming back to ourselves, who we are and what makes our soul happy. So discovering yourself, even like through dance, is a really strong one for women. So ways to just be able to spend time with yourself and discover yourself.
And so for our viewers, can you just give us a list of what you do and how they can find you, please?
Yes, sure. So the best way to contact me is through Instagram, unless you're here in Bali. And what I do is it's a spiritual alignment, I call it, which is a soul aligned sessions, which includes deep root therapy. My main session is the one that you experienced here. So we go from thoughts to emotions to memory to understand what's caused what you're struggling with. And in one session, we get to the deep root cause. And then, of course, there's many ways that I work with clients, from cognitive therapy, which is mindset coaching, first understanding the mind and how it's working, creating your reality today, and then processing any emotions that are stored in our body, in our energy field, that are holding us back. And as I mentioned, a lot of this comes from memories of us with our upbringing, childhood, parents. So they're all linked that way. But yeah, I think I help people, especially women. It's a very big passion of mine to work with women. I see so many beautiful women out there who have so much power and is such a gift to give to the world, and who are not living in that fully because of anything from our past holding us back. So this is why I love, and I'm very passionate working with women, to really bring them back to their soul alignment, their soul path, so you can really live on your true path. So
Beautiful. I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
thank you, ladies.
Thanks for watching another episode of the Spicy Waitress Diaries. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode.